What's up, guys? Ian here, coach of your Ladner Lanturn, bringing you guys our NCL Season 4's Obstrika season recap now that the season has been completed. A little bit of a side note at the end, please, if you are watching my Season of Red and you don't want to be spoiled on the statistics of the Pokemon that I'm using in Red, don't stay until the end. That's just my hint. I've updated the stats on my all-time kill leaders doc for my red statistics. So if you don't want any spoilers about red, don't stay until that part. That'll be the final thing that I cover, though. If you haven't seen a season recap of mine before, then I guess ignore that. Yeah, it's pretty formulaic in how I do these now, but it's a nice conclusion. It gives me closure on the season, and I think it helps a little bit for everyone. So I'm just going to start with the draft analysis here. So let's talk about my draft in NCL Season 4. I took Mega Diancie round 1. Definitely do not regret that. Mega Diancie is an amazing Pokemon. It just picked up a lot of kills. It put a lot of pressure on teams. There was just like super random steel coverage running around, and in particular, my match against Cade, I think that drafting Mega Diancie proved to be a gigantic issue for him. He had to run like Iron Tail, Porygon 2. Garchomp, which is something I've been relatively comfortable with lately. Garchomp was definitely a solid pick on the team. Very much appreciated as a rocker, well, as a secondary rocker for the Bronzong that I got a little bit later down. But it put in a decent amount of work in later on into the season. It wasn't, earlier on in the season too. Buzzwole, same thing. Buzzwole was putting in a ton of work early into the season, and then I stopped bringing it for a while because I felt that people were over prepping for it a little bit, and it stopped having good matchups as well. In my matchup against Nacho, I brought a banded Buzzwole that could have just tore through his team, but unfortunately I had to deal with the Aegislash and be able to break it, so that's what Buzzwole's primary role was for certain parts of the season there. Excuse me. I probably didn't have the flying resist necessary to pull off Buzzwole entirely, but I was definitely very happy with this core of 3. Moongus didn't come as often as I would have liked, but it's such a good blanket pivot. I've drafted this again since then. I just love using a Moongus so much. It's such a fun mon to just pivot into. It gave people like Chess. It gave Chess a ton of problems in playoffs. There was another matchup where it just did so much. Nathan, maybe. I think it switched into Nathan a bunch. I can't remember off the top of my head. There's someone in particular. Oh, you know what it was? It was Shade. Shade had a gigantic problem breaking through the Amoonguss, so I was pleased with that. Bronzong is always my MVP, realistically. Bronzong gets so many kills for me in the seasons. I brought some funky sets with it this season, and it did not disappoint once again. Vaporeon I was a little bit disappointed with. I probably would have preferred any other water type besides Vaporeon, but I did manage to Wish Pass into my Bronzong a couple times, which was super clutch in those games. So I probably wouldn't have traded Vaporeon in those games, but it's a little bit too passive for me. Despite having that 110 base special attack stat, it's just a little bit too passive. I ran into a bunch of other waters that just happened to be better than this, and this team in particular struggled to break through those waters because my electric type was a tier 5, and my grass type was an Amoonguss. So, yeah, definitely didn't want to deal with that. Rotom-Frost is the MVP of the team, probably once again. Rotom-Frost plus Bronzong 2 seasons in a row now. Gigantic fan of this Pokemon, honestly. It's so good offensively. I think I even brought it defensively a couple times, but um, especially in the open Z format, I don't even think that it needs the speed necessarily, but it's a really good Scarfer too. Puts a lot of pressure on people with the Volt Switch, which is something I didn't utilize all that much on this team, was Volt Turn. It was a lot of doubling um, and predicting, and so having Rotom Frost there to be a pivot was really helpful throughout the season. Hoopa-Unbound was most certainly the offensive MVP of the team. It picked up like 17 kills or something. It went like 17 and 3, or 17 and 4, one of those two. I think it was 17 and 3 actually. Hoopa was just amazing. I think I prepped really well with Hoopa this season, and I think people prepped poorly, or I was a little bit more conservative in how I used my Hoopa. I would scout for bug moves a lot, and I would assume that certain Pokemon had bug moves on them for the Hoopa, and so I would sort of prep around that, and I think Hoopa just showed its value here. I was sort of the opinion that it wasn't all that good beforehand, but it just put in so much work for me this season. I can't deny it that you know, Mega Diancie had 10 kills. I believe Garchomp had 10 kills, and Hoopa-Unbound had 17 or whatever. So, very, very positive perception of Hoopa-Unbound. I kind of built the end game of the team around Hoopa, um, which I didn't necessarily have to, but the threat of it kind of worked out. Talonflame, I was pleasantly surprised with. It ended up being very good defensive pivot. Just the typing that it has was very good defensively, especially with Flame Body. Probably would have preferred Moltres in like 9 out of 10 of those matchups, but the fact that it has Taunt as well as the Gale Wings utility, which did come into play against Nacho. I did mainly bring it Flame Body, but the Gale Wings did come into play against Nacho. It failed me twice against Hamu through the season, regular season and in semis, but I can't really bash on it too much. It's definitely a tier 4 value though. It's really not that. It's not any better than that by any means. It's just unfortunately it's not quite good enough for that. Masquerain came to my quarters game against Chess, but mainly it was there as pressure, sticky web pressure for whatever reason. I mean, webs plus Hoopa was kind of the idea, right? But I ended up bringing that Trick Room Hoopa against Aaron, which put in so much work. I got like 5 kills that game or something. Yeah, just the threat of webs kind of like forced people to run defog and whatnot against me, and like have to prep for Masquerain in that sense. Having the 4 times rock weakness between Talonflame and Masquerain wasn't super huge, but spreading out the 4 times weaknesses between Ice on Garchomp, Flying on Buzzwole, um, Steel on Mega Diancie, Bug on Hoopa-Unbound, Rock on Talonflame and Masquerain. It forced a lot of weird hidden powers and a lot of weird coverage on for some people. So I definitely do think that drafting a bunch of 4 times weaknesses is very beneficial, because it can open up a couple of your Pokemon depending on what your opponent regards as a larger threat to them. They're generally going to overprep a little bit more in the 4 times weakness category for those rather than others. So that's sort of where it happened there. But yeah, Masquerain actually ended up winning me the quarterfinals match with Intimidate on the Mega Bombasnow that was at +4, because at +3, Hoopa-Unbound could live the Ice Shard and then kill from there. But besides that, it did nothing all season because it just didn't come. Starmie, I have actually won a title with Starmie in MWPA Season 5. I was not thrilled with Starmie this season. I think it might have been better with perhaps another water with reliable recovery. You know, I kind of found that Starmie was locked into 4 move slot syndrome a lot because I would water run recover on it a lot, as well as like water stab, psychic stab, and then a coverage move. But it needs more than the 1 coverage move, and it also needs rapid spin. So I kind of found myself locked into weird sets with Starmie. I'm not a big fan of Starmie. Not a huge fan of it. One glaring flaw this team had, and it's something that I probably should have patched up through free agency. I didn't drop anything. There was a speed gap between Garchomp and Rotom-Frost, which actually allowed base 100s to run like Adamant or Modest against me, which could have been a much larger problem had I run into more base 100s throughout the season that were relevant. Something like Victini on Cade's team could have been a gigantic threat against me, because it could run Adamant or Modest against me. With that speed gap, you know, Adamant or Modest base 100s actually outspeed max speed Rotom-Frost by 1 point. Yeah, so that could have been really detrimental. I did have decent speed tiers in the upper echelons. It went Talonflame, Starmie, Mega Diancie. There was nice gaps there. I didn't have a ton of other Trick Room options to go with the Hoopa-Unbound, so I probably would have liked to have something there. Something besides the Starmie. The only reason I even got Starmie was because it was a spinner, and I figured I would use webs a lot, and I wouldn't want to defog away my own webs. I'd rather spin them away. I didn't really have a lot of removal on this team in the first place, and so I actually got punished by rocks a couple of times. In my losses in the regular season, I got punished by rocks, and in my loss in semis, I got punished by rocks as well. So, not thrilled by that, but that's just how the wind blows. So let's take a look-see at the dock here now that we're done that. Tier list looking sort of the same as ever, a little bit more colorful this season though, with having 16 coaches with more varieties of colors than we did in previous seasons. Notable tier shifts, we had things like Dragonite move down to tier 2, which was a fairly notable tier shift. We allowed Landorus Incarnate Sheer Force, so Lando I moved up to tier 1, Instead of being the tier 2 trash that it was Sandforce, we allowed Deoxys Defense, which was tier 1. I'm not sold on this Pokemon. I don't think it's that great. I'm just kind of winging this part, to be honest, because I don't really remember what else we unbanned. I think that was it, was Landoi DOD. Aegislash moved down to tier 2 this season, I think. No King Shield Aegislash, which proved to be a little bit too powerful for tier 2. If we were split tiers, it would be like a tier 1B for sure. Definitely not a tier 2, but also not a tier 1, in my opinion. I don't really think a ton of other things moved. Yeah, off the top of my head, I can't think of a ton of other relevant tier shifts that happened. Here's the draft. This is how the draft broke down. I had a relatively poor pick at 11th, actually. It's kind of just a strange spot. But it ended up getting some decent Pokemon for myself. I got sniped a couple times. I can't remember where. I feel... Oh, you know what? I was targeting Zapdos, and then I ended up getting DNC Chomp, which was actually a much better pairing. I figured Zapdos DNC would be better because Zapdos resists Steel and is immune to ground, and is a fighting resist, unlike DNC. And then DNC could handle... I don't know. What deals with Zapdos? Grass types, I guess, but not really. I don't know. They didn't. It was more for DNC's purposes, trying to defensively cover my first overall pick. Buzzwole there. We had the Amoonguss there. Zygarde went late, but I wasn't really targeting Zygarde after I took Garchomp. I firmly believe that Garchomp is better than Zygarde, by the way. 100%, 100%. Yeah, that's kind of how it broke down. Does this show replacements? No. I see. It pulls from here, which pulls from the admin page. Some of these should be broken, actually. Because Phil actually dropped out, and Dom dropped out. Was that it? Yeah. We had the most transactions I've ever seen. Most of them came from Cade, trading and then dropping things because he ran out of transactions early on. We did have a couple replacements come in. We had Nathan come in for Dom in week 6. And then we had Stu take over for Phil in week 7. They weren't huge deals in the end. Neither of them ended up making playoffs. In theory, Stu would have played for the 3rd seed as well. Or sorry, he would have played for relegating in the 3rd seed as well, but ended up nuking that because we had a little bit of a different promotions system this season than I was anticipating. I figured we would do the 2 auto promotion and auto demotion, which is actually on the standings page, just on the rules here. I don't know if you guys can see this or whatever. Yeah, okay, here it is. Bottom 2 got auto relegated, 14th place for relegation. Ended up changing that because we were promoting to the Season 5 empty Substriker spots, excuse me, were earned by either placing in Blitzel. Well, it was earned by placing in Blitzel. Depending on how you placed in Blitzel, that's how we promoted up to promote, staying in the league. That's kind of the idea, right? Is like sticking around in the league, showing loyalty, and if you start in Blitzel, you can work your way up to Zipstrika. You don't have to win the whole thing of Blitzel to work your way up to Zipstrika. I notice, I watch every single game because I update all of the games on the docs, so I notice who's improving and who isn't improving, and who's stagnating and whatnot. So yeah, we'll change things up a little bit, but basically all of the newcomers are coming into Blitzel rather than coming into Zipstrika right away, regardless of skill level. So this is probably Season 4 is probably the only true Blitzel season we're ever going to have in terms of like a beginner or a closer to beginner skill level, just because we're recruiting some more advanced players and they'll be playing in Blitzel. If you guys don't know about that, then check out the NCL Twitter. By the time this video goes up, in the server at the very least, we'll have posted the new coaches, because I'm sure we're probably in the middle of tier voting by the time this goes up. We're kind of rushing into Season 5 a little bit just to hit a deadline. I want to stick with the 12-week system that we have because it's consistent in terms of statistics. I like having my statistics equal because otherwise it's kind of meaningless if I had like some seasons with 12 weeks, some seasons with 8 weeks, some seasons with 10 weeks, then the statistics don't mean as much because they're not as comparable. I mean, you could extrapolate, yes, but I don't want to deal with the extrapolation when the matches can just be played instead of me imagining or estimating what's going to happen. Um, yeah, so I'm pretty proud of this. Actually, looking at the standings page here, I kind of glossed over this. I didn't really talk about this, but I did finish first in the regular season. This is one of the top 10 all-time records. It actually is only 2 differential off of my season 1 differential, so it's my second best all-time season in the NCL, which is saying something. Although I've been relatively consistently good here. Um, Over the 4 seasons I've played, 3 of my seasons are in the top 10 records of all time. 10-2 plus 32 in season 1. Season 2 I went 9-3 plus 23 or something, or 25, I can't remember. And then season 4 I went 10-2 plus 30. But season 3 I still went 7-5 plus something. Despite it being my worst season, it was still a winning season. And if we were using the mono table instead of having conferences and divisions and whatnot, I would have made playoffs that season as well, which unfortunately I did not do. So my lowest placing is not playoffs. If I make playoffs, my lowest placing is semifinals, which I can also be proud of. I've finished 3rd place twice and 2nd place once now in my own league. I probably will never win, but there you go. Jay actually ended up winning Coach of the Season. I didn't win a single award. I was nominated for a few. Jay had a meme weather team, and he ended up winning Coach of the Season for doing so well with his meme weather team. 9-3 plus 14. He had some relatively close games, no like blowouts. Yeah, but that's pretty much all there was to it. Mike showed exactly why I recruited him. I'd never seen him play a match before, but I knew his game knowledge was there, and he played really well this season. Easily my toughest win of the season. I would say the toughest game I had all season was against Hamu. I just mentally cannot handle playing Hamu for some reason. It's super strange. I just have a weird mental block when I play him. So yeah, really weird. I don't know. It showed up in semifinals as well. Felt like my prep was just like not done well enough, and the matchup was just super weird, like weirdly in his favor, despite me having matchup advantage against a lot of other teams, and his team not being all that great. He just had some really good pieces that sort of countered me really well. I don't know. Cade struggled a little bit this season actually. He's kind of on a downward spiral a little bit. He's taking a lot less focus away from Draft League, so I can understand it completely. This was the first time I've beaten Cade in a really long time was this season, and at the time I sort of felt like, I've been improving for a while, but Cade was always sort of the bar that I set myself to, and I hadn't really beaten him in a while, and so it felt like I was kind of below him, but that win over him just sort of made me feel like maybe I'd finally caught up, almost 2 years later. But there you go. Again, Hamu didn't really have a super consistent regular season, but he played in the matches that he played that counted were amazing. The middle of the table was really close, by the way. As you can see, 3rd place through 14th place was only 3 games away. Sorry, 4th place through 14th place was only two games away from each other. So it was actually really, really tight in the middle here, which kind of shows me a little bit how competitive the season was. Chess managed to just edge out the last playoff spot. Jed making it back to playoffs once again. Jed actually started out the season very poorly, and he had a great comeback. He won the Most Improved Coach of the Season award. He definitely deserved it. He had a horrific start to the season. He pulled it way, 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 way back. Nacho, who I wasn't expecting to do all that well this season, because I didn't think his team was super well rounded, managed to pull into a playoff spot, and then he made finals. Like, he proved me wrong by all means. Shade actually would have made playoffs if he didn't choke away some differential in his game against Aaron, who finished in 12th. I was a little bit worried that I would have to play Aaron again just because I felt like the gimmick sets that I brought in our match weren't going to be good enough in a playoff rematch. I never played Vanderbilt this season, but she unfortunately fell out of a playoff spot. Daniel, kind of after my game against him, he kind of fell off a cliff as well. Technically, in terms of scoring, he played Nacho. He was supposed to play Nacho after me, and therefore didn't lose. all of his games after playing me, but he actually played Nacho early because he was going on vacation. And so he was actually 5-0 at the time of playing me, and he lost 7 in a row after he played me. So I feel kind of bad because Daniel and I were kind of like swapping between first and second place at the beginning of the season, and then he just sort of started falling down the standings as I cemented first place for a while there. Who else? Nathan, I was really proud of. Picked up the team that was not doing very well and put in a lot of work. Ferroseed was just so goddamn annoying. He brought like a really weird stall archetype that just kind of pissed a lot of people off. Stu just kicked my ass, man. I don't know what to say about that. Lando T and Mega Man Electric just tore my team apart. Same sort of thing, same sort of idea with Hippowdon and Heliolisk on Hamu's team. Just kind of strange. But yeah, those were both my regular season losses, was to Stu and Hamu. Tiffany and Mortal unfortunately did not perform as well as they probably could have, but 3-9 in a league this competitive is not that bad. So regardless of them actually auto demoting, they didn't play all that poorly. There have been many worse records in this league before. Mortal has had one of those many worse records in the league before, and so this is probably not new territory for him necessarily, but I'm looking for him to perform well in Blitzel. In terms of the playoffs, I played Chess in round 1 and we beat him. Hamu beat Cade, and then Hamu beat us to go to the finals. Nacho beat Mike and then beat Jay over here because Jay beat Jed. You guys can't see that, it's hidden by my logo. And then Hamu ended up beating Nacho. Ooh, okay, there's the logo. I was going to say, why didn't this load and why is it not straight? There we go. Yeah, so that's the playoff bracket there. Schedule, I'll break that down a little bit later. Rosters page is just really thing. Expanded stats is irrelevant. I'm curious about Jed actually in terms of what his start was. Yeah, he started 1-5 in the first 6 weeks and then finished 6-6. So this 5-game winning streak here really pulled him back into a playoff spot, and he beat some key competition that he had to beat to make it through to that area after having a really tough start to the season. He pulled it back quite well. But let's go to my team page here and talk about a little bit about the team here. So 11 kills by Deancey, came to 11 games. I brought Deancey, Garchomp, and Hoopa each to 11 games. They were the core of the team. I didn't bring Masquerain to a single game. Amoonguss could have come more often, but it won every single game it came to. At one point, Buzzwole had won every single game it came to, and then I lost one with it against Hamu, I think. But 8 kills in 7 games. I mean, it only died 3 times. Pretty solid. Vaporeon actually went even for me, and it came to a lot of games, so I ended up relying on it quite heavily. But Bronzong 6-3, no passive kills this season. Yeah, Hoops went 17-4 in 11 games, which is really super solid. Starmie didn't get a single kill, and it died twice in the 4 games that it came to, but I lost both games that I brought Starmie to, so not super thrilled with that one. I didn't make any drops or anything, so this is what the team looked like the entire time. I had a nasty winning streak, a nice 6-game winning streak, and then I lost to Hamu 2-gamer, and then I lost to Stu 2-gamer, which was actually 3 because I beat Chess in playoffs there, and then moved on from there. I know it says free agent trade differential. This is just because I dropped Amoonguss to pick up Cobalion, traded Cobalion to Cade for whatever, and then dropped that for Amoonguss. So I did use 2 free agent transactions to help out Cade and buff his roster a little bit, which didn't end up helping him all that much because he ended up losing in quarterfinals. And it didn't really matter to me at that point because I'd already played him. So he was doing that the week of the deadline, which is week 8. And I already played him, so there was really nothing to be concerned about there. So that's the doc. Now let's maybe sort of talk about the teams. I'm pretty deep into this to be talking about teams, so I'll maybe go a little bit faster here. But if you haven't seen my prep doc, this is what my prep docs look like. I have my side of the prep doc here, which is the base speeds, their max speeds. This is a neutral nature, so like Adamant Garchomp hits 303 max speed, and then boosting nature, so Jolly Garchomp hits 333. If it's in green, that means I brought it. My opponent's side, it's the same thing in terms of the speed. If it's in green, that means they brought it. If it's in yellow, that means I expected it. If it's in orange, that means I wasn't expecting it. I haven't done red in a really long time, but if it's in red, that usually means that it's definitely not coming, like 100% of the time. I have the sprites here. I'm a little bit more of a visual builder in terms of what I see. I need to kind of see the Pokemon that I'm building against to be able to based it a little bit more. I listed out the priority moves that they get, the hazard setters they get, the removal options, their 4x weaknesses. This one in particular is a little bit more important to me. I like to at least cover, have at least one coverage move for their 4x weaknesses, regardless of if I think the mana is coming or not. I like to have that. I list out what I'm speed creeping in particular. So in this case, Diancie ties Latias. That means I was running max speed Mega Diancie because Latias is the same base speed. I have the date that the match would have been played, sorry, the date range where it would have been played, and then the date it was actually played, the date and the time usually. Yeah, so in terms of TIFF, I don't remember a ton about this game. It was like a long, long time ago. I'm recording this July the 12th, and this was March 28th, so I don't remember a ton about this, but I have the teams here in my team builder. So against TIFF here, I brought a Spadef Bronzong, which I would imagine is for the Lottie. Oh yeah, I ended up 1v1ing the Lottie with it, and I 1v1'd the Aromatisse with it, and then a Hiligo. It was like a really good blanket check. Fizdef Vaporeon with a little bit of speed for something. I don't why did I have speed? Maybe for Chestnut. Probably for Chestnut to get a Toxic off or something. Akaberry Buzzwole ended up comfortably living a hit from Chandelure and then killed it, I believe. Revenge killed it with Earthquake. This is kind of a strange EV spread that I was running here. I seem to remember EVing for something in particular. Well, I know what the speed was for. It was for min speed Latias, but I seem to remember running that specific amount of attack for some reason. Chomp, sub SD, it wasn't even a sub SD Chomp, it was just sub Z move Chomp. Could have put in a lot of work. I don't remember if it did or not. DNC, I can't remember if it did or not. Starmie, I can't remember if it did or not. This is kind of the ideal set that you'd want on a Starmie, but maybe not Rapid Spin and maybe a coverage move instead. Week 2, we picked up a win over TIFF either way. Week 2, we played Jed. I felt that this team is relatively easy to beat. Buzzwole put in a lot of work. I actually brought Assault Vest Hoopa against this, which was kind of a funky Hoopa set, but it ended up walling the Nidoking like super duper hard. The Spadef stat plus the AV just made it really, really bulky on the special side. Yeah, really bulky on the special side. I don't remember what the problem was on this team in terms of breaking it. Buzzwole just put in so much work against whatever it was. Galvantula or something? I seem to remember like killing Galvantula with this. I don't remember Diancie doing anything in particular. I know I EV'd the Diancie in particular to take like Life Orb HP Steel. Or no, it was Sash HP Steel because I would outspeed it. So I took Sash HP Steel from Galvantula in a lead matchup. So it was very specific prep that I had at the beginning of the season there. Starmie didn't really do much. Oh, I was just Spec Starmie. Yeah, his water resist was Go-Goat, so his water resists were very, very poor, and so Spec Starmie put in a lot of work just clicking Spec Surf against him in theory. Never ended up coming to fruition, but it could have in theory. Week 3, we played Shade. I 6-0'd him. This was my blanket check Amoonguss. I brought a Rocky Helmet Amoonguss against him. That was a really good blanket check to the Lopunny and any physical attacker that he had. He didn't bring the Darmanitan, which was the biggest problem for this, so it just switched in freely on a lot of things. Kyurem wasn't able to beat me. He brought like a weird, I think it was a weird Scarf Kyurem with Shadow Ball or something. And my Rotom-Frost ended up tanking hits. Diancie did something, I think. Scarf Buzzwole did something, I think. I can't remember anymore. He was like Screens Klefki, which was super annoying. But I was able to put the Reuniclus to sleep with Spore, and then Hoopa picked off a lot of stuff late game because his Dark Resists were almost non-existent, actually. I believe his Klefki was like Fizdef, and I was Specs, so it took a trillion from Dark Pulse. Or Psyshock, really. And then Murkrow was getting like 2-shot by Dark Pulse or something too. Mega Lopunny wasn't Mega Evolved for a super long time, and it was getting chipped, hardcore chipped by the Amoonguss with the Rocky Helmet there. Yeah, I was pretty proud of how I played this game. I think it was really good. I EV'd correctly on a lot of Pokemon. Like this EV spread on Hoopa, I believe, was intentional for some reason. This EV spread on Rotom was intentional for some reason as well. Everything else is relatively poor there. I put a tiny bit of speed in Amoonguss for some reason for the Reuniclus, so I would always outspeed it and Spore it, I guess, is the idea. Week 4, we took on Caden Juicing Tapu Koko. He didn't really have a great matchup in this one. Garchomp, I'm pretty sure Garchomp tore him apart. Again, I could be wrong. Could have been Hoopa again. I'm not entirely sure on that. I'd have to go back and rewatch the games. If you've been watching my season, you'll know what's up. He brought like he brought SD Z Bounce or something Keldeo, or Power Herb Bounce Keldeo, and I was Koba Berry Amoonguss actually for Brave Bird Tapu Koko and like Brave Bird Decidueye, and I also think it was for Z-Fly Dragonite or something to get a Clear Smog off on it, even though I was Spadef. Bronzong was there. Fight Z Hoopa with Focus Blast, Z Focus Blast to break through Aggron, which didn't even come. Garchomp did something. Oh yeah, it was Scarf Chomp. He was like Weakness Policy, Flame Charge, Victini or something. And I just like clicked Dragon Claw, predicting something to come in on the Earthquake, and two-shot him or something like that, because he was predicting me. I ran dual Scarfers, yeah, of course. And Scarf Rotom-Frost may have done something. I might have hit a Blizzard against the Dragonite or something. DNC might have done something. I was Sub Endeavor for the Mega Aggron. Oh, you know what? Sub Endeavor DNC took down the Porygon 2. Took it really low because he was like really high on like sub-toxic Porygon 2 at the time, so I wanted to be able to break that really easily. Daniel, I was really scared about this match. He had a lot of good stuff. He ended up choking decently hard against me. He had a lot of outs in that game. But turns out Telepathy Tapu Lele, ooh, that's something on the tier list I should have mentioned. Telepathy Tapu Lele was pretty deadly early on in the season. I think people weren't prepping for it as hard. I know I certainly didn't prep for it very hard. I was expecting the Scolipede to do a lot more. I was expecting the Thundy T, which didn't even show up against me. Yeah, so I brought a few things to deal with that sort of thing. But Assault Vest Hoopa, I don't remember doing very much. I brought like a fully physical Assault Vest Hoopa for the Latios. Garchomp, I don't remember Garchomp doing much. Mayachi Chomp, I'm losing my train of thought here. Scarf Buzzwole might have done a lot. I really couldn't tell you. Week 6 was our last win in a row, and we took on Mike. This was a really close game. He ended up baiting me really, really well with his Terrakion. He bluffed that it was Scarf for the longest time. And then it turned out to not be Scarf, and it was actually his Mismagius that was Scarfed. He caught me off guard there and almost beat me with that at the end of the game there. There were a lot of really close 50-50s in this game. This was easily one of the most fun games I've played ever. Scarf Hoopa put in a ton of work later on into the game. I ended up like two-shotting the Rotom Heat or something with Zen Headbutt, which put in a decent amount of pressure. Put on a decent amount of pressure against him. He brought like Fizdef Primarina or something. Excuse me, instead of Specs, which just like tore my team apart. I brought like Spadef Vaporeon, kind of anticipating the Primarina to be Specs, and then it wasn't or something. I was Koba Berry Buzzwole for, I don't remember, like Aerial Ace. I think it was for Aerial Ace, Terrakion, and Weavile or something, and he had Aerial Ace in the Weavile. I don't remember anymore. ICMZ Rotom was for Gliscor, which didn't come, and it was for Lottie, which actually he didn't even bring the Mega Latios, yeah, which was super strange, but there you go. Week 7, we took a fat Eldahamu. We lost in about the same way that we lost in playoffs. It was not a pretty game. I didn't really change things up in playoffs either. In fact, it looks like I ended up just dropping something for Mega Diancie in playoffs. Oh, I dropped Hoopa for Mega Diancie in playoffs. I brought like a Z Snatch Hoopa, which I thought could put in work and then didn't. The biggest thing about the regular season match, I actually probably could have won that one if I had been able to deal with Hippo a little bit better. Hippo ended up getting a free kill against my Starmie because I doubled into it and sacked off my Life Orb Starmie, which was really shitty because that was my best way of breaking Hippo. And I ended up having to break Hippo with like a Zen Headbutt flinch or some shit at the end of the game with Hoopa last time. This was really dumb. I ran Snatch over Z-Trick. I had originally had Z-Trick on this so that I could use it as a nuke with Zen Headbutt just in case as well. And then I ran Z-Snatch or something to snatch like a Quiver Dance or some shit from Volcarona, which didn't come. There was like a ton of status moves I could have snatched, right? But they were all irrelevant. I don't know about that one, man. I don't know. It was a really weird game. I brought Heat-Proof Bronzong the first time for whatever reason against the Volcarona. I don't know. I deserved that L. Fat L. Against Nathan here, we had an interesting matchup. I was really scared of the Ferroseed, and then it came, which was just super whack. I had absolutely no fire coverage for it on my entire team, and so I was kind of trying to deal with it with like bulky Rotom, and I was running no HP. I probably should have run no HP IVs as well to get better pain splits off against the Ferroseed because it's got relatively low base HP. Um, yeah, this was a super strange one. Jolteon picked off a lot of my Pokemon. Uh, I made a play. I made a double in my Chomp on a Volt Switch or something because I was saving my Amoonguss, and I knew that he would go for like, oh, it was Thunderbolt. I was saving my Amoonguss to get Regenerator back, and he was going for Thunderbolt for sure. And I sort of saved myself there. The Kangaskhan was quite a pain in the ass. I feel like Hoopa cleaned this one up as well. Clicking Dark Pulse against Necrozma or something. Another Sub Endeavor DNC. With no HP Fire even to deal with the Ferroseid. I just had Earth Power instead for the Pex. I don't even remember what broke Pex. Might have been Chomp. Poison Z, I can't remember what I clicked that against. It was there for the Togekiss, and then I never clicked it, I don't think. Oh well. Honestly beats me. He was like Silvally Steel or something too, so it was a really weird game. Oh, I sub-endeavored his Silvally Steel with DNC. Yeah, it's coming back to me a little bit now. Week 9, we took on Aaron. This was the Trick Room Hoopa-Unbound game, and I brought some really funky tech. So I was really proud of my prep for this one, actually. I brought the Soft Sand Garchomp because Earthquake just blew through his team with the Soft Sand boost. His one ground, like he didn't have a single ground resist on the team. It was just Skarmory's immunity, and so I managed to trick an Iron Ball onto it with my Bronzong, which grounded it, and then I was able to just freely click Earthquake with my Garchomp against a lot of the team. I punished his Emboar with my Garchomp as well, and Suicune was Venikoon, which could have gotten really out of hand, but later on into the game, the Trick Room Hoopa put in the finest of work. It picked up like 4 kills in a row at the end of the game there or something. I remember having to make a very key double because he was trying to get a rest off with his Suicune, and I had to make a really key double from Bronzong. You know what? He froze my Bronzong with his Kyurem Black is what it was. He froze my Bronzong, and I had to double into my Garchomp to be able to pressure the Suicune because everything else was like slower than the Suicune because I was Trick Room Hoopa. Um, Talonflame did nothing. He scouted really well against my Talonflame and went into Skarmory on the Z Fly. Talonflame definitely could have like just swept his team if I hadn't clicked Z Fly the turn that I did. So there were some problems there in terms of my actual battling, but the one double was really clutch. Week 10 we lost to Stu. He just body bagged me with that Landorus and the Mega Manectric. There was really not much I could do in terms of that. You know, I was Yachi Chomp, but I don't remember what happened actually. I think I Aqua Tailed the Lando. I got really weakened by other things, and I was super scared of the Gardevoir being like Trace and tracing Beast Boost on Buzzwole and just reverse sweeping me. And then he wasn't even Trace. He was like synchronized bulky Gardevoir or something, which really threw me off. It was a super strange set. I remember pulling some differential back in this one. I think I only lost like 2-0. But it was not an ideal game in terms of how I played or the result. Week 11, we took a Mortal. I'd already clinched by the time I played Stu, so it was irrelevant to me. And then week 11, we played Mortal. I was just fighting for first seed. Mortal brought a lot of the same stuff, but it looked like he'd re-prepped for me. I don't remember what put in work here. I want to say it was DNC. Could be completely wrong. I know Talonflame got a clutch burn on Jirachi, and then it burnt the Mega Gallade or something as well. He clicked Sludge Wave on Lander's Eye against my Bronzong or something, which was super weird too. Bronzong did quite a bit there. His Shaman was a pain in the ass to deal with. I just double into like Talonflame or something on it. That's about all I remember from that one. Week 12 was against Nacho. I didn't post this for a while, which is why my uploads are delayed for NCL Season 4, because I wasn't sure if I was going to match up against Nacho in playoffs, and I wanted to save my prep. But yeah, whoops, that's not what I wanted at all. This DNC set was actually able to take Bullet Punch from Mega Medicham if I was in regular form, because now actually this is the finest example of what I was talking about with the speed tiers and being able to abuse it with base 100s earlier. He was able to run Adamant Mega Medicham against me, which could have been extremely crippling if he hadn't tried to predict my Talonflame coming in, click Rock Slide against my regular Diancie, and I blew him back with a Moonblast. That thing was such a problem for me, man. He was caught off guard by my Gale Wings Talonflame, which was like the first time all season I brought it, and so I was able to revenge kill the Aegislash. Banded Buzzwole could have put in work, but didn't. I feel like Scarf Hoopa cleaned, but I always feel that about every single game. I think I seem to remember him, like, or me at least thinking that he was Shuka Nidoqueen. I brought Z Sandstorm, Sandvale Chomp, which is really interesting because Hamu ended up bringing Sandvale Heliolisk against Nacho later on in the season, or in finals, I mean. I was really shocked to not see Torn against me because, like, I have a Buzzwole that, like, beat everything that wasn't Torn and Aegislash, and so I was a little bit surprised to not see the Torn against me, but that's fine. I was the Zap Plate Rotom just for the Torn, so once again, I was proud of my prep in the season, and especially in quarters. I played really well in quarters against Chess. It was a pretty fast game. Definitely worth the watch if you want to go check that out. His Mega Abomasnow was quite the threat. I ended up over-prepping quite hard for Metagross, Zygarde, and Gengar. He brought a weird Metronome, Greninja, and flinched me a couple times with Dark Pulse. He was like Iron Ball comfy, and my Amoonguss ended up outspeeding it, which was also really strange. He brought Banded Dual Chop Zeraora against me, and so I punished him really hard with the Blanket Check Amoonguss again. This was the one game Masquerain came to, and the biggest thing is that I got an Intimidate off against him. Webs were extremely irrelevant against his team anyways. Because he didn't bring things like the Gengar and things like the Zygarde, I needed the speed control against something like Gengar because Scarf Gengar just tore my team apart. I had a pretty difficult time prepping for this one, but it ended up turning out quite well for me. The Z Dark Pulse Hoopa picked off Comfy from like half health or something. It was just so good against his team. I EV'd it to like Ocoat, Colbur Berry, Max HP, Metagross or something, and then he ended up bringing a really, really weak to Hoopa team, and he sacked off the Greninja early, things of that nature. And then in semis we played Hamu, where I barely changed the team. It looked like on paper. I brought Power Gem for the Volcarona, but he really just didn't like Volcarona at all. And so I ended up over prepping for Volcarona again. I should have had something like Thunderbolt on this set, or like Z Thunder or Z Zap Cannon. I think it gets Zap Cannon actually. Someone said that. It got Zap Cannon. Yeah, I could have brought like Z Zap Cannon, Starmie against him and just blown back his Finny. Because even though he didn't bring Finny way back in week 7, or he did, but he threw it away against me. This time he brought like a Calm Mind Taunt set that just like broke my team early on. I had to waste a lot of resources on it because it was like Fizz-Def, Calm Mind Taunt, Finny. So I ended up having to blow my Vaporeon because I couldn't roar him out because of the taunt. And then I had to blow Diancie, and then I clicked Z move against it with my Garchomp because I brought Z Chomp instead of the Scarf Chomp. I blew a lot of resources against that Finny, and it ended up costing me quite heavily. Heliolisk just ended up being a gigantic problem for me somehow, and then Hippo was a problem too. So something about the combination of ground and electric just seemed to give my team issues this season. I'm not sure. I'm not exactly sure what it was. I didn't want to bring things like a Moongus against the Finny, but yeah, that was a thing. There was like a Fizz-Def Berry Muck that wasn't Curse that was super strange. I don't really know what more to say about this game. It's just really weird. I fucking hate playing against Hamu. Um, any of these mons could have come, which made it even worse. So yeah, those were the teams for the season. Now let's run through the full roster. So this is my all-time kills doc. Again, this is updated with the red statistics, so if you don't want to see them, look away. Garchomp is now actually my second most the game is played in terms of any Pokemon, including my red statistics and my NCL statistics now. It's one game behind Mimikyu, and I actually drafted Garchomp in another league, and I didn't draft Mimikyu. So assuming I bring Garchomp to 2 games or more in that league, it'll surpass Mimikyu in terms of games played, which is kind of wild, actually. It's not super great in terms of the offenses, but it's been very consistent for me, and so I would definitely continue to draft Garchomp for sure. A lot of these leagues have been very recent. I since 2019 at the very least, like beginning of 2019 when we started drafting for WPL, it was only in my Mount Silver season 2 before that, which was like late 2017 is when we started drafting, like New Year's Eve. So really early 2018 is the last time that I had used Garchomp, and then I drafted it 4 times. These were all upload leagues too, which is crazy. So I guess I like Garchomp in upload leagues for some reason. Hoopa is just a monster, man. I only had an LET before that. It averages so much. It puts on so much pressure. It's so good. Mega DNC I'd only had a couple times before. I was a replacement in NPL Season 9, so I don't necessarily count that all that much. But Mega DNC did win me the game against Spexstar. It was really good for me in GSA. It was really good for me in NCL. Big fan of Mega DNC. Buzzwole, always a big fan of. I've only had it in red and NCL. Just it puts on a lot of pressure for sure as well. Beast Boost being a big thing. It's a nice ground resist. It helped out the DNC quite a bit, especially considering my grass type didn't resist ground. I think Buzzwoles was a nice fit on the team because of that. Bronzong, Bronzong's the MVP, man. This thing is so good. UPPA Season 2 is like 2 games worth of data, so it's like 16 games split between NCL Season 3 and Season 4, and it's got, 2 kills for every death that it has, which is really solid. I love Bronzong. Love me some Bronzong. Rotom-Frost, again, same thing in terms of NCL Season 3 and 4. I didn't bring it to a single game in Mount Silver Season 3, I don't think. And I picked up that team, and I dropped this. I dropped this for something afterwards because I just revamped that team a little bit. But consistent Pokemon. I love Rotom-Frost. I love using it. Here we get into some of the newer stuff-ish. Amoonguss was on the same LET season as my Hoopa-Unbound season in LET. Amoonguss is really consistent, really great blanket check. Vaporeon I haven't found a ton of success with. I kind of crashed and burned in Mount Silver Season 5. I picked up a team in Nepal Season 3, and then I promptly dropped Vaporeon for Mega Blastoise, or I dropped Mega Blastoise for Vaporeon. I can't remember which. I'm not the biggest fan of Vaporeon, but statistically it's not horrible. Which is something, I guess, at the very least. Starmie down here, I did win the title in MWP Season 5. That was the only other time I used it. I brought like a Z Thunder set against things like Suicune. I just don't think it's got the coverage option that I need it to, so I probably wouldn't actively draft Starmie again if I had the choice. Talonflame, this was the first season I ever drafted Talonflame. I was not thrilled with it, but I wasn't disappointed with it by any means either. It wasn't like supremely horrible or anything. It just wasn't all that good either. That's why it's a tier 4 in particular. And then last but not least is Masquerain here. 0-3, so I brought it twice in Mount Silver Season 4, and then it died once in the one game that I had in NCL Season 4. Masquerain, not super great. In Mount Silver Season 4, it was because I had Heracross on that team, so I ended up dropping some stuff to try and get webs and power through with Masquerain. I think that was another triple bug team. I had like Mega Beedrill. The main core of that team is Mega Beedrill, Jolteon, just pivoting around over and over and over again, and just having fast Volt Turn and just locking people into that. I ended up doing it one game. It was really hilarious. I actually just like U-turn Volt switched into the other one like 6 or 7 times in a row and just beat this guy down because he had absolutely nothing for the Volt Turn. But yeah, that's it in terms of the stats. Let's go back to the dock here a little bit. Keep your eye out for NCL Season 5. It'll be coming to the channel live. Maybe I'll do a little bit of a rundown in terms of what leagues I'm in and whatnot at the moment. So I'm in WWC, which I'm not uploading. I've had a couple disappointing losses there. I should definitely have a better record than I do at the moment. Both my losses currently, it's week 5. I lost week 3 and 5, both of them 1-0. Week 5, I lost because I got paralyzed, which is a very me strat, but it actually ended up coming down to a roll at the end of the game either way. There were some plays I saw at the end that I could have made differently, and I wouldn't have lost that game 1-0, or at least it wouldn't have come down to a roll against the Primarina, and I would have won 1-0. Week 3, I ended up choking. I had Ditto and Crocodile against a Groudon, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to be a smart person and go into Crocodile and intimidate him. And then I forgot that you copy the Intimidate boost. So what I should have done was go Ditto, attack him, and then go Crocodile, intimidate him, be able to live a hit from the Groudon and get 2 hits off, which was it was a choke on my end. So I really should be 5-0 in that league, but I'm not. MWPA, I'm 1-5. I'm struggling very hard in Venus. Not only this season, but last season as well. I was struggling quite a lot harder. It's a very competitive division. It's one of the most competitive leagues that I'm in. And I'm not comfortable in a free draft environment. You know, I ended up winning MWPA Season 5 with the team that I picked up, so I didn't really have to draft that team, and it was constructed for me, which I think helped. Just drafting my own team in free draft, it doesn't click for me, man. Cuba didn't click for me. MWPA Season 6 didn't click for me. It's now MWPA Season 7, and it's not clicking for me. I'm not sure what's going on there. Maybe if I get demoted and I have less people trying to vie for the same strategies as me, I might be able to do a little bit better. I drafted a lot of comfort stuff this season, and it's just not working out for me. I may or may not have ABDL games, which is the anonymous league that I'm in with Shade. I had to edit a few of my NCL videos this season because I gave away who I was, and I had to like quickly edit that out of the way. Yeah, I don't know about ABDL. I'm not sure when this video is going up, so I'm not sure how much I'm allowed to disclose in terms of that, in terms of who I am and whatnot. If it's going up after the season's done, then I'm sure I could reveal exactly who I was, but I'm just going to avoid it for now. ABDL currently is end of week 9, and I'm 8-1 plus 20. I've clinched first place in the conference, so who knows where it'll be when you guys see this. There's a bye week between the end of the regular season and playoffs, so this match might go up, or season recap might go up while there's a bye week going on in AABL, which would be something for sure. I know I'm not concerned at all about my Week 10 match, but I will be concerned once playoffs arrive there. It's basically about 2 weeks away from me actually starting to care about ABDL again. Nepal, I'm not doing horribly. It's Gen 6 League right now. I'm not doing great either. At the moment this is going up, I'm probably 3-3 because I probably lost to Dre, but I'm not sure about that one. I got embarrassed by Merkit, who is someone that I should not have lost to. It was just a weird strategy that I was not prepared for very well. And I lost to Nasiliga, hacking me the fuck out there. Yeah, I'm not super duper comfortable with an Oras. I'm not having as much fun as I probably would have hoped. It was an auction style draft in Oras. Not super duper comfortable with the team, but I'm bringing like all 4 of my really high budget mons every week. I'm in UPAD League, which you guys may be seeing uploads for soon. I plan on recording UPAD League and uploading it almost in a red style, where I upload it postseason or start uploading it halfway through the season. Basically because I have like postseason red uploads going up right now. I have AABL current uploads going on right now, and I'll soon to be having NCL Season 5 uploads going on right now. I wanted something to end before I started uploading UPAD. Don't have high expectations for that. It's a very competitive league. It's more competitive in my opinion than MWPA Venus, just because it's not a free draft. And so like I think in the MWPA people are trying to have a little bit more fun with it, but UPA is a little bit more of a serious environment. So I wouldn't be surprised if I go 0-10 potentially there. I probably won't go 0-10 there. I'll probably pick up at least a couple of wins, but I've got a fun team there, and yeah, I'll be uploading that at some point. You can expect UPAD League content to go up for sure. Mount Silver, we just finished drafting for season 6? Season 6, I believe. I believe it is season 6. Yeah. Yeah, season 6. I've got a really fun team there. It's an Ubers league. I'm not going to upload Mount Silver. I've never planned on uploading Mount Silver before. Otherwise, I would have done it through season 2, 3, 4, or 5. I've been here for 5 seasons. Like, this is my 5th season in Mount Silver. It's my most seasons played is Mount Silver, besides NCL, I guess, at this point. But they're the same. They're on the same pace. Yeah, I'm in love with my team. It's a really fun division that I'm in. I'm in Pupitar, which is the second out of 4 divisions, second highest out of 4 divisions. It's a lot of the NCL guys in there, so like 9 out of 16 of the players in the division are from NCL, so it's a really close, tight-knit group of friends, and so I'm looking forward to playing there for sure. Red might be hosting a summer season. I know they sort of tease that in terms of gaining traction to do with people. To do with people. I don't know where I'm going with this one. People being interested in a summer season. I said yes. We'll see where that goes. I'm not sure if it's actually going to happen or not. GSA is not currently running, but it will be at the end of July. We're starting up another season of GSA. Probably won't be uploading that since I'll be uploading UPA instead. PSS, which is Hamu's league, I applied for. He's doing a funky thing with banning Earthquake, and there's a ton of complex unbans that are going to happen. Not sure about that in NCL. I've got a bunch on the tier list change doc that may or may not go through. I won't be uploading PSS regardless. Just wanted to let you guys know. That's kind of what's going on in terms of my leagues. And this has been going on for a really long time, but that's kind of to be expected with an NCL season recap. So that's pretty much all you guys need to hear from me at this stage. I have nothing else to give you in terms of that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I will catch you guys for NCL Season 5.